Today I want to share with you the number one mistake most all new public speakers make. If you make this mistake, you're going to have such an incredibly difficult time booking speaking engagements. Don't miss this. I wish I would have known this in my first 2 or 3 years. My life would have been so much easier. But once I learned it, getting bookings became a lot easier. I'm Brian Fleming, the founder of Use Your Story at useyourstory.com. And by the way, real quick, if you haven't done so already, go to useyourstory.com right now and grab the Share Your Story roadmap. It's free. It's a very easy to follow step-by-step process that I'm going to show you how to get booked to speak and share your story. And also how to make your first $500 speaking. It's not hard if you know what to do. Go grab it for free right now, the Share Your Story roadmap at useyourstory.com. So what is this huge mistake that so many, if not all, brand new public speakers make, or aspiring speakers, people who want to get into speaking, sharing their story, doing something with their story through public speaking? It's actually sort of counterintuitive because when I at least got into public speaking, I actually didn't mean to do it, but people were saying, "Hey, Brian, you should come share your story. Come share your story." And they even started paying me to do it. And so I thought, well, okay, I'll just go share my story. But there's a way to share your story. And I didn't know that in the beginning. I just thought, hey, people are throwing some checks at me and asking me to come tell my story. I wised up and things got even better. And here's the deal. Here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to make your entire speech your life story. Now, your story matters, but your story, your life story, is only a piece of your speech, of your presentation. What you don't want to do is just merely project your story onto your audience, because we all have a story. But you don't want your message, your speech, to be all about your story. That could be misinterpreted as all that guy does is talk about himself. I was actually accused of that a couple of times, but the people were total trolls. They turned out to be really toxic. And again, it was early on in my career when I really didn't know what I was doing. I was just sort of running the mill and messing up and learning and messing up and learning and doing the best I could. But you don't want your speech to be about just your message. What you want it to be about is, instead of making your speech all about your message, what you want to do is you want to attach your story to a message that is already relevant to people that they care about. You don't just want to project your story onto people and just tell your story. You want to attach your story to a topic that people already care about, that is relevant to them and they want help with. And there's a number of ways you can do this, but here's a really easy example. Very early on in my career, it was one of my first actual complete events that it was my booked and paid event. Here's what I did. It was a month before Veterans Day of 2007. In fact, Veterans Day that year was actually my very last official day on active duty in the Army. So it was kind of ironic. What I did was I called up a church in South Florida that I had been a part of in high school before I joined the military. And I said, hey, basically, I don't know what you guys are doing for Veterans Day, but if you don't have a speaker already, if you would like me to come kind of share my story and how my faith tied in to my recovery from my injury in Afghanistan from that suicide bomber, it might be a good way to get some of the local veterans and their families and maybe some more people from the community into your church and get exposure to them. Now, you see what I did there? I didn't say, hey, can I come tell my story? And hey, can I come share my story? I presented it in a way that it mattered to them. What do churches always want? More people through their doors, just like every business. And so I structured what I said in a way that it benefited them. I got a response immediately. They booked me. I spoke for about 45 minutes, and they paid me $700, which is a pretty small speaking fee, but I was brand new. And so I was delighted because I was getting shot at fighting Taliban in Afghanistan for about $2,500 a month prior to that. So this wasn't a bad gig for a guy like me, and nobody even tried to shoot me off the stage. So that was good. So what I did was I aligned my story in a way that was beneficial to them during a holiday that was coming up. I made myself relevant to a holiday. How can you make your story relevant to a holiday for people who can book you to speak? I mean, in the first several years of my speaking career, it was Veterans Day, 4th of July, Memorial Day, September 11th. I was always booked on those. And I got known for booking bigger gigs around those days because it was a popular time of year to have a guy like me come in and speak. because I made myself so relevant and beneficial to them. So basically what you want to do here is you want to take your story and jump onto a moving train. All right, a train that's already moving, that means there's already market demand. Attach yourself to that and jump onto one of those trains and figure out a way that you can be of great value to people in that way. And use your story as a sort of foundation for being relevant. So again, with this action item, how can you make your story relevant to a group of people who can book you to speak? Does your story align with a particular holiday or holidays? Does your story lend any insight into a particular topic or subject matter in some way? Does your story align with a cause, perhaps, that people care about? For me, that would definitely be veterans, military, things like that. Earlier on in my career, it was faith-based audiences, churches, things like that, faith conferences, because that was a community that I was a part of. But I was also relevant, like I said, to veterans, military, their conferences, the topic of resilience, the topic of leadership, whether it was for the military or whether it was in the corporate or private sector, teaching leadership or resilience, things I learned in the military, teamwork, team building, because in the military you learn that stuff. So these are all avenues, different avenues I could go. These were all moving trains, these topics that I could attach myself to, jump onto, and be of value and go from there. It was a lot easier getting booked when I made it crystal clear to people who could book me to speak of what I could talk on that was relevant to them, that they cared about. And my story was really just kind of the foundation of that, kind of a credibility piece that helped me to get booked and contributed to me being able to go speak for them and get paid for it. So ask yourself this question. What do people care about that your story naturally aligns with? Because that will help them find common ground with you instantly and start to know, like, and trust you even faster. Again, jump on a train that's already moving. It proves that there's already a market for that kind of message. Attach your story to that message. And that is one of the greatest keys for getting booked to speak. Again, if you haven't done so already, head over to useyourstory.com right now and grab that free Share Your Story roadmap, where I'm going to show you a very simple process for how to get booked to speak, sharing your story, and make your first $500 speaking.